Hey everybody, that's Britt.
And that's Tiff.
And welcome to Quick Car Cuts, where we watch a movie in the theater.
And then talk about it in the car right afterwards.
Hence, the car. Today, we saw the Wolfman. Actually, hold up. No, we saw Wolfman. There's no the.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There's no the. It's just Wolfman.
Which is an interesting remake that has almost nothing to do with the original. And since this is a remake that has almost nothing to do with the original, we also are going to do something different. So guess what? We have friends. Hello.
That's some Friday the 13th shit back there.
Oh, I wish I had my mask. I'd be so baller.
For those who don't know, you remember Kimberly from
Hi.
our Terrifier Quick Car Cut, and this is our friend Jim.
Hello.
Jim, where can they find you?
I think you can find me here on YouTube on Flintworth.
Flintworth.
And you can find us over on his channel as well.
Yeah. Every
So
other
also,
Monday.
we don't make him ride around in the trunk. He just did that for spacing reasons. So,
And
you
I
know,
like it.
No,
This was a
chose
choice.
to be
it
there.
was a choice.
There's plenty of space next to me. He chose this life.
He chose it.
It's okay. I got snacks back here.
Let's get started with initial impressions of the movie.
So I'm going to start out. Y'all can roll your eyes. Spoiler free. Y'all can roll your eyes.
I'm practicing.
So for those who don't know, I am obsessed with the Universal monster movies. The original ones from the 30s, 40s. I love them. I live for them. And funny enough, Invisible Man and Wolfman are my two favorite movies. Favorite character is Bride, but two favorite movies. I love their stories so much. So going into this, I was not happy.
If any of you watched Nosferatu recently, her feelings on Nosferatu, you can kind of get a gauge for what to expect
I
here.
liked Nosferatu.
You saying you didn't like Wolfman?
No, we're not going to get there yet. So, with the Wolfman, the original story is about a wolfman. The original story is about a man who comes back to his hometown after his brother dies, and it's actually a really good psychological movie about, is he turning into a werewolf? Is he just crazy and everyone's trying to get him out of murder charges? This one has nothing to do with that. The characters are different. The timing is...
It's fine.
Oh my god!
He's too good at that. He does it every time.
Oh.
The timing is different. The characters are different. The setting is different. Everything is different. So if you liked the original Wolfman, don't expect that at all with this movie.
This is also Lee Whannell's second crack at one of those classic stories.
Correct.
And he did not stick to anything near the original when he did The Invisible Man. And I personally like that a lot.
I will say, at least in The Invisible Man, they kept the name right. His name was the same.
Okay.
It's Dr. Griffin. So that was interesting.
But if you're doing something completely different with it, you might as well change all the names.
Very true. So now, the things that were different but interesting. So, and no spoilers, this is all from the trailer, is that this movie is about more of, rather than it being a Celtic curse, it's like an indigenous infection. It's an interesting take on it. It's very different.
I really felt, I also like the Universal monsters. I'm a big fan of Dracula. But I'm also of the opinion that if you're gonna do something new with it. Do something interesting. And while I could say that a lot of the beats in this movie were kind of predictable, I had a really good time as I was being walked through all of the beats. It's structured really well. The atmosphere is really great. And it was, I really cared about the characters, and so that's really important when you're watching them go through hell. So I will pass it to our friends in the back.
Yeah, so for this one, I think that the performances were really excellent. The special effects were really grody. Yeah.
We'll get
really,
there. We'll get
really
there.
grody.
Yeah. How can you not?
And it's fun. I mean, it's a Blumhouse film, and so you can't expect them to paint with any nuance. It's gonna tell you exactly what it's doing, but at the same time, I think that it's still using the allegory of lycanthrope to tell an interesting story, and it has a fun twist on it as far as some of the metaphorical concepts that they're exploring with it. So I think it's fun. I didn't expect it to be groundbreaking, and it's not groundbreaking, but it's a good time.
I liked it a lot, to put it out there, just the start of it. I'm a big Universal Monster fan as well. I've worked at the parks. I got to been around, the Halloween Horror Nights and all that. But what they've always kind of enjoyed about certain remakes is that, like many stories these days, there's no such thing as an original story anymore, but unique takes on it. And to me, this was a very unique take. Like, you know the destination, but the getting there was so different in so many nuanced ways that I enjoyed, that I'm not gonna say too much because that's into spoiler territory, and I'm gonna hold it off to later.
That's a good way to address it. Does anyone know if The Invisible Man was a Blumhouse?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Just wanted to understand that.
Yeah. No, and I was gonna say, I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I was going to. So I did not hate it.
Which is really good, because we were like, we want to go see the Wolfman. She goes, fine, but I'm going to complain the whole time.
I did.
Like,
I'm not
literally.
happy about it.
I'm not gonna be happy. I'll go see it. Fine. I did enjoy it more than I expected to. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's like my top, like, movies of all time, but it was a good one. I'd want to watch it again. I'd want to go sit in that anxiety and that atmosphere again.
The atmosphere of this movie. So, as somebody with a heart condition, this was a tough freaking movie to watch.
as a regular rating, you'd probably, I don't know, give it a 5 out of 10, but as a person with anxiety, it's like a 2.
Oh my God. There was a point where I grabbed onto Jim and I was shaking so bad because this movie does such a great job of creating tension. It doesn't have that many jump scares in it, but the tension gets so high. And then when you finally see like a creature like in the background, you're like, ah! We did that multiple times.
The sheer number of times she and I are basically, like, non-verbally kind of going like this because we didn't want to speak up out of fear that it might come after us through the screen. Was fantastic.
There's
I didn't feel like the tension stuck with me the way that it did with the other folks in this car. No, not quite as much, but I did still find it fun. I'm sitting there, once things are picking up, Brittany's sitting next to me, and I have this thing where once a movie starts getting good, I start bouncing, I'm cheering it on, I'm sitting there bouncing in my seat like I'm bopping to music, and I'm having a good time. So for me, even though it wasn't that heavy tension, in my perspective, I did still think that what it did was fun. I was really into it.
The wilderness is scary to me. It's beautiful. But I also have a very healthy respect for what the hell can be in the woods. And there's one scene where they're looking out the front of the house and the flashlight just passed over the grass and I went, nope. Because I'm like, nope, that's prime territory for something to come on up and bite you.
I will say though, during the overhead shots at the beginning, I lean over to Brittany and I go, ho, 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 ho. Because
that was
it was the exact shot from Twilight, and it was great.
Okay.
It's the exact shot from Twilight and from Smile and from Midsommar and from and you know what?
Yeah.
I love
It's
it every
beautiful.
time. I think the piece for me that kept me from finding it as scary or tense as it went on is that I find men scarier than monsters every time. And so, and I don't feel like this is a spoiler. We all know how werewolves work. So towards the beginning of the movie, when you think you might see a man in the woods, I'm terrified. I'm like, oh, that gets me. That instant, my gut drops. As soon as we're dealing with
bear.
Right, the bear. And then we get the bear. And I'm like, you know what? I'm less afraid of the bear. I'm less afraid of the wolf, the monster. But I am still having fun. It's a fun movie. The effects, it's a ride.
So one of the things that I think worked really well at least for making tension, and one of the things that I enjoyed is that it showed you what was going to happen without making it a jump scare. So like you would see the creature in the background while you're panning across and it wouldn't even like notice it. You would go past it, or you would see somebody coming down the stairs and they wouldn't draw attention to it. Like, and it would be us going, oh, and I loved that.
There it is. I see you. You can't jump at me now.
Which I enjoyed. I thought it was a really good take on it rather than just straight jump scares the entire time.
Yeah.
I fucking adore. Can I say fuck? I fucking love the sound design in this film.
Ooh,
When it comes to like what really gets me tense and scared, it has to be good sound design. And I'm so glad that we saw this in IMAX theater, because oh my fucking god, if you do see this in IMAX in theaters, but if you get the chance. If not, find that one friend, like an audiophile like me, who has way too much, speaker power. Just tell them to crank that shit up. Because this movie excels on the fact that, we usually forget with like wolves and dogs, they have fucking good hearing. And they totally use that to such phenomenal effect. Like hearing, even when they're not like doing it from certain monsters' perspectives, from a human's point of view, you're looking outside in the dark and just hearing the wind outside, the shuffling, circling around you in your seats. It like engages something instinctual in my DNA. That's love.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, any more spoiler-free thoughts before we move on to more spoilery things?
I'm ready to spoil like milk. Let's go.
Yeah. You?
All right, and here's your last chance. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh no!
They die! No, they actually, generally they don't. It's
So
okay.
let's talk about good things first. So spoiler, I thought it was very interesting that they made it more of an infectious disease than a curse, which I said before, but then you kind of almost get it from his perspective because they keep flipping it to show you what's happening to him, and then they flip back to show you what's happening to them, which I thought was a very interesting take because you never really see that.
Yeah, I did like that. I liked how you didn't necessarily catch on right away that he couldn't understand them or they couldn't understand him. It was kind of subtly played. So when she starts to talk to him when she wakes up, it's really quiet, like a whisper, and he does the shh. But they come out to see him and he talks to them and they don't respond. It's not necessarily spelled out. I think that's one of those better moments of the movie. The way the infection slowly starts to creep in, and having his perspective as well adds to that tragedy of the family moment. Because, sometimes when they lay out stories, you're like, oh, this is going to be the arc that we're going for. And the way they started out in the city, I was like, oh, the arc is going to be about them becoming a better family. And that didn't happen.
No, that is not the story at all.
It does definitely make it, the way that they picked the characters and they changed it to a family instead of just a guy definitely made it more tragic, for
But
sure.
I liked that that's not how it turned out, though.
Yeah.
Because I also like that it wasn't a happy-go-lucky family, everyone's getting along, and they had their problems.
No, it's about the generational cycle of abuse. That's what the lycanthrope is kind of metaphorically doing. And do they get a little heavy-handed with it towards the end? Yes. Again, it's Blumhouse. That's to be expected.
It's also kind of reminiscent of the original from Universal, which had a lot of heavy themes about, generational, expectations.
That's the thing, is the original had generational expectations, and then the next one with Anthony Hopkins had the abuse. So it was like a weird where they kind of took from the second one that they made as well.
Except I think that their use of lighting and effects to swap between wolf perspective and human perspective in the movie really reminded me of some of the theming in the original, where you have, is it in his head? What's it like? He's experiencing kind of an altered reality from what other people are experiencing.
More and more,
So
man.
and so they tap into that. And at first, I thought it looked goofy as hell. I'm not gonna lie. And by the end, I liked it a little bit more, but I still thought it looked pretty goofy. But I'm giving full credit just for the idea. I like the idea of it. I like that they swung for the fences. The results visually, I would have done
The
it
barn
differently.
scene, though, where you figure out where he's standing directly in front of them.
They're hiding in the dark and they think no one can see them, and he can see them in perfect view. There's no point in hiding because he can see everything.
And he's 3 feet away.
It's
Ooh, that was
scary.
good.
It's
Just
good.
looking at them. Well, also stuff like that help put into perspective what his motivations might have actually been. Because he's standing right in front of them, but he's not lunging for them yet. And so at this point, we lose his ability to speak. We've lost it some time ago.
Yeah.
But I got to give credit to the way they paced it and the actors' work to show that, you kind of wonder what his motivation is for going after them, because he doesn't seem to necessarily want to hurt them. Like when he grabbed for his daughter, it didn't look like he was going to claw her. But because of what he's become, you know. But again, it's part of that metaphor, and you know, they're scared of him because of what he is and what he's done, and yeah, it's just interesting.
Speaking of his daughter, I love when one of the view moments we got to see from his point of view and the freaky ass vision, and they did such a great job kind of showing that it isn't like, you know, steady, like he's losing it, that there is waves. Like you always see from the other side, like, oh, he's coming and going. You can see he's trying to do his best to fight control, and kind of showing that briefest of moments where he can't understand a thing his daughter says until like the last really thing he kind of comprehends from her is, you know, he sees her clearly, understands her clearly, and that she's saying to her father, I love you. It's just
And also, their faces would distort, so you couldn't tell who they were at certain points, too, which kind of goes with the in and out. Also, different note, the child actor they got to play young Blake looks just like the adult Blake. Those two actors...
Good casting.
Good casting.
Kid casting.
They look amazing.
The entire cast was so excellent. Their performances were just really subtle, especially because a lot of this movie is told through facial expressions, and combining the sadness and the shock and the horror and confusion all into one pile of a moment is just so effective. And I don't know this actor. I don't know if you guys, do you guys know the guy who played Wolfman?
I don't know the three main leads. I don't think I've seen anything with them in.
I've seen Charlotte in something before, but I'd have to check IMDb to know what. But this cast was strong, and especially his performance that was almost entirely nonverbal was just so good.
Yeah.
What did you think of Tobey Maguire in there? You know, the little wolf spider that's been crawling up.
Stop! Get out! I will say that was one really good subversion of expectations, because I leaned to both of you and I was like, he's gonna it's gonna be a jump scare and he's gonna wake up and he's gonna have been dreaming, and then to find out that it's this. First off, I almost threw up because I hate spiders.
He almost threw up too.
That was a thick boy. But just to hear, then to find out it's the spider crawling on the wall, I'm like, oh, that was good.
Yeah, this kind of shows his developing hearing.
Although, as they show his developing wolf senses, one of the first one is he's in the basement, and he just goes, "What's that?" And I'm like, I turned to Brittany, I said, he might as well start barking. Like, what are we doing right now? Anyway,
yeah. So I really like the way that the camera was used to help distort, because you know,
the Dutch tilt.
We've all had too much to drink at some point. You know the feeling when the world is spinning even though you're laying flat? They did a really good job at like kind of giving you that feeling of nothing's, you know, quite right when the camera starts to tilt with him as he leans and then rights itself but then completely goes back the other direction. They had so many good shots like that where you start off at one perspective and it's not quite what you think it is, and it's really disorienting, and also getting us into where he is at that moment in his illness is really good work. And I love interesting camera use. I really do. It's so good for telling the story. We really don't have to have a reverse shot all the time. We can really get into the mind of our character just by doing a few movements.
All right. Another thing that I was really pleasantly surprised about was how well they kept focus and kept it entertaining, and essentially what was mostly a bottle movie, like a bottle episode of a show where you have one location. Yeah, at the beginning had a couple different spots, but once you got to the cabin, you were there the entire time. And it's like, all right, they got there at like 10 o'clock. Now it's 2 o'clock. So you're going to have to be there the entire night and keep you entertained. And they did. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised that I did not get bored being in that cabin.
You know, although I think for me, I don't know if scariest is the right word, but the most intense and heart-throbbing moment of the whole movie was before we got to the cabin, because my God, a really good car crash, a really good violent, long car crash will get me every time, and boy, this one delivered. It's like instantly after it ended, I said, Jesus Christ, I need to catch my breath. Okay, now I want to watch it again because it was so well done.
I enjoyed during said crash, they didn't pull that classic trope of like, oh my gosh, monster in the road, avoid it, and as it goes off, you know, the monster suddenly disappears. Like, no, you see the wolf boy going like, oh shit, getting out of the way.
And they tumble for like a good 30 seconds. Like, we
Yeah.
are going, and it hurts.
Oh, wow.
The way that the truck landed in the trees in the air too really subverted expectations, where like you think they landed and all of a sudden you see the tree fall like up and you're like, what? And then you're just sideways.
Oh, you had a truck fun fact.
Yeah, that on the side of the
yeah.
moving truck. Actually, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it points out that it was established in 1941, which is the same year the original Wolfman came out.
It did.
We love an Easter egg.
yes.
too.
Another Easter egg is that the daughter's name is Ginger, and one of my favorite werewolf movies is Ginger Snaps.
One of the
Oh,
best.
you know what? Smart.
One of
I
the
was
best.
thinking of Ginger Snaps earlier when you were talking about lycanthropy and the cycle of abuse. I'm like, can we talk? There's got to be an essay like in all of this about men's werewolf stories and it being an abuse story, women's werewolf stories,
Being puberty.
and puberty.
What do we fear most? A woman in her body or a violent man? Both, I guess.
Bear, bear,
Bear, bear, bear.
Oh boy. Does anybody else have anything to say before I get into a very controversial topic?
Ooh,
Ooh, I want to, at this point, you've got us on a cliffhanger.
I'm.
What did you think of the effects?
Which
Are we
ones?
gonna fight?
Which effects?
Here's the thing. I saw what the original. So I ended up seeing what the prosthetics
Oh,
for.
are you talking about the werewolf design specifically?
Yes.
There's a reason why I didn't want to see it beforehand. And you watch it, you were like, look at it. I said, I don't
You're
want to
like, get that away from me. So I got real mad because I got to see the original design, and the one they released was apparently of Grady, of the dad, werewolf, and it looked bad. He looked like an old gremlin man, and I was mad. In the movie, didn't look as bad as it did in pictures in broad daylight
I didn't
behind
want
the
to see a
scenes.
picture.
I will say, I definitely wish it would have been a bit more wolfy, a bit hairier, but I understand that they were going more for a body transformation, like a
Yeah.
body horror, like disease. But if you're gonna call it Wolfman, give me some wolf. And maybe a little less man.
I think it's interesting in a subgenre where we have seen lots of wolfy werewolves to see a little bit of a different take on it.
Okay.
And I do think that Grady is hairier than Blake was by the end, because we're on night one with Blake, and so for him to be on night one still on the erring on the human side of werewolf, and I honestly, for me, it was just the transformation itself. So not necessarily about the destination, but how gross
Yeah.
some of the
Painful.
physical
And I
changes were.
misspoke. I shouldn't say what did you think of the effects? I should have said, what do you think of the design?
That's
Because-
why I was
because
like,
the effects
yeah.
themselves, fantastic.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, what beef do you have with a
I know. I'm like,
what kind
it
of beef
looks
do you
grody as hell.
have with a shredded arm,
Lee
ho?
Wanell
No.
knows how to chop off a foot in a bear trap. Like,
He does.
Yeah, I mean, between like the wolf from Van Helsing versus the wolf in American Werewolf in London, I feel like this one was kind of leaning more towards like the better side of things, because I could see that, like, you know. It was
I'm
more of a-
sorry, what was that scale?
I
And
get
what
it.
was
I get
better?
it. No, at 0
is
is
the
Van Helsing.
because
Okay,
it's a CGI wolf.
Okay,
the
yes.
10 is American
thank
Werewolf.
God. I was like, are we shitting on American Werewolf right
No!
I'm glad to translate for you, Jim, because I got where you were going.
Okay,
I'm glad.
I got to the destination and I'm okay with
now?
that.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, because to me that is like
We
the
had the
best
same reaction.
on-screen werewolf.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
bar none. And I talked about it extensively last year. But with this, I appreciated how it was, like you said, like, you know, it's like day one. It's not going to be a case like, oh, watch him suddenly grow like a full-on beard. Like, no, it's more about you change the body structure, then you kind of grow it out. Which I appreciate, because even if you look at like Ginger Snaps, when she transformed, she was mostly skin than fur herself.
I guess,
She was
yeah.
kind of like a wolf goblin looking thing, which was just as terrifying. But more wolfy side than actual like humanoid wolf.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how I kind of viewed it. I kind of liked how it did feel just painful and kind of showed at least a side of him that was still human.
I'll respect it. It didn't work for you. But
It worked better than I expected it to, but it's still one of my least favorite werewolf designs.
That's fair.
fair. When you take it out of the context of the movie, I can see how it's an ass werewolf design. But in the context of the movie,
It works.
I like it because, again, we're on night one. We're looking at kind of a more grounded infection-based werewolf.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I've usually seen like Supernatural or like, it's all in his head, or it's to see something attempt to be as grounded as this tried to.
It was a zombie werewolf movie.
It was a zombie werewolf. It worked for me. So.
What if I said I don't care? What if I said that it didn't make my viewing experience better or worse because it didn't seem important? You know what I mean? Like,
Look, I'm a contrarian, so
yeah,
No,
I feel like the
that's a valid
focus.
point. Yeah.
I feel like the focus wasn't the monster in the same way. It was so much more focused on the relationships and the ability to express through the prosthetic, which we did maintain. And so I didn't leave saying that was a great werewolf design. I also don't think it was a shit werewolf design. I don't care.
Yeah.
It didn't affect my viewing.
I like that. I like that take, because for me, that's why I love werewolves so much. We've mentioned this before in other conversations that, like, if I had to pick like a zodiac of the monster pantheon, mine would be werewolf. I know it's a joke. It's a fun joke, but you can learn a lot about someone based on it.
No, you're right.
Because the thing I like about the werewolf monster themselves is that they such embody this idea of like losing yourself to your wild side. And to me, with the acting and just showing like psychological stuff and all that, they did a good job of expressing that on screen. Just like how he's doing his best to hold on to, like, wants to protect his daughter, wants to protect his wife. But he can feel himself losing control, and it's just, tragic.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think this is a good time for final thoughts and ratings.
Yeah.
Already?
I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember
Unless
what it
you
was.
have more critiques that you want to unleash into this car.
I feel
Do you have
like
more
that
takes?
was very pointed.
Because I pointed my pinky at you, bitch. Alright, so here's the thing. Quick car cuts are meant to be quick initial thoughts, and if it was just Tiff and I, we could probably get through this much quicker than this, but we have 4 strong opinions in this car. Maybe less strong, but strong-headed people nonetheless.
Is that a read?
That wasn't about anyone in particular.
Back to my trunk zone.
But if the trunk fits. So if you'd like to hear like longer versions of these takes, Jim on his channel will have the Graveyard Gush. That's where we all usually gather when we're available to talk about these in a more longer form. We gush about the good things and the bad things, so you can head on over there. But for now, this is a good time for ratings and final thoughts. So why don't you start?
I thought that I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. It's not my favorite movie, but I enjoyed watching it and had a good time. So I am going to give it 3/4 of a moon phase. I can't remember if it's waxing or waning, but it's the one that's a little bit bigger, closer to full, but not quite half. So it's going to be moon phases.
How many steps are in a moon phase? Wait, I gotta do math.
Oh, God, yeah.
She said 3/4 of a moon
wait.
phase.
I know my moon phases. I can get really specific with you.
Okay, how about, okay, it's going to be new moon.
Fuck it, okay. All you have to do is get moon phases and cut off a moon. It's fine. You know what? Fine. Just for the ease of Brittany.
It is. I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 moons. 6 out of 10 full moons. There you go.
These bitches out here going like, is it a waning gibbous?
I was gonna say I'm giving it a waning gibbous! Get out of the car!
It's my car!
I'm taking it home!
Technically, a waxing, I think, is bigger than a waning, but we'll have to
But I
find out.
want it to be on that end
If
of
you
a
wax
scale,
it, it's always
you know?
bigger.
What's your thoughts?
Jim, what are your thoughts?
Kimberly, the mommies are fighting again.
No, it's a quick car cut. We gotta go.
Okay.
You made it more complicated!
Yeah.
Hurry us along with the moon phases!
Oh my God. Okay. Give me a sec. Overall, I actually liked it a lot. I would say somewhere between an 8 or a 9 out of 10 moons. I was actually very, very pleasantly surprised. It is certainly not my top werewolf film, but it's definitely now, I think, in the top, 5 somewhere in there. I'm not sure exactly, what place, but I'll let you know later on the gush, maybe. But no, I would recommend it.
Let's fuck with your moons. I'm gonna give it just 3.5 out of 5 moons. That's what we're doing. I'm shrinking your moons. Less moons.
3.5 out of 5 moons.
When I said we have a lot of strong-headed bitches in the car, It was specifically.
I was gonna say a Wayne and Givens, and then you shat on me, so.
I was being
It
nice.
wasn't you, it was Brittany.
Hey, y'all. Brittany, what was your thoughts on Wolfman?
Look, I had a good time. Was it the most groundbreaking thing? No, not at all. But it's a decent werewolf movie, and I appreciate it. It was a good time. So I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 moons. Because I can.
Because Brittany edits the quick car cuts and she chooses how many moons we get.
All right, before we head out, let's give everyone a chance to plug their stuff one more time. Kimberly.
Yes, hi, I have a podcast. It's called Scary Accurate. We talk about horror movies. Big surprise. I also talk about, if TikTok still exists, I talk about horror movies on my TikTok. It's KL Name. You can find me there. It's a stupid username. Don't ask why, but come check it out. And I also talk about movies there.
Jim, where can they find you?
They can find me on Flintworth on YouTube. I run streams on various things, like horror movies and drawing streams and such. Come say hi.
Awesome. So there's a lot of movies coming up that I know we're excited to see.
Make sure to go into the comments below and let us know which ones you would like us to review.
Oh yeah, and don't forget to tell us what you thought of Wolfman, please. Because
How many moons?
How many moons?
What kind of moons?
How many moons and what kind of moon would you give Wolfman? Let us know in the
A
comments.
whole ass.
Would it be a cheese?
A full moon.
Same moon? Is there cheese on the moon?
Both cheeks.
That was Britt,
That's Tiff.
and this was Quick Car Cuts. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.